Hello, everyone. This is Mary Kurek with Frontrunners, Innovate. And the lovely lady that's joining me today is Dr. Anita Sanchez. And Dr. Sanchez was introduced to me by a mutually wonderful good friend who could not be with us today, Brooke. And Brooke will maybe join me at another time and we can kind of talk to her. But Dr. Sanchez is with Sanchez Tennyson Associates, and she is an author, speaker, diversity and inclusion specialist, and also NAWA, as I have just learned. So thank you for being with us. And I love the title of the most recent book, which is The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. And that, as I mentioned to you before we got on record, is what really drew me to having a conversation with you and bringing out some issues that I think that a lot of people don't think about. And so first, why don't you share with us a little bit about NAWA and the experience you've had of growing up in this space, and give us a little background.
Yes. So I grew up in the middle of the U.S., Missouri, Kansas City. NAWA, people also know as Aztec. So I'm half Indigenous and I'm also Mexican American. And so I grew up in one hand with this just amazing life with elders teach me about what it means to be a human being and all this, our connection to nature and each other. And I also was brought up really appreciating dreams. And that becomes very, very important. We need a lot of dreaming happening now. And that was really critical because it helped me through the tough times, as it does many people, to where I fulfilled that dream, which was a dream of as early as 3 and 4, and I still have the dream of the earth and little stick people, and we have our hands in each other's hearts. And I drew that, Mary, in kindergarten. And the kids laughed. The teacher said, "Put away the crayons." But something happened to that 5-year-old when I gave voice to it, which is, I just knew that was true. I wasn't embarrassed. And lo and behold, it turned out to be an organization development consultant doing diversity and inclusion work all over the world with Fortune 500. Nothing in my background in the inner city of Kansas City, in a very poor neighborhood, we were the only non-Black family in that neighborhood, would have suggested that would happen. And that's the power of what's not seen, but can be dreamt.
Well, you know, I have this theory about everybody's life, and because mine is very diverse as well, and never would have dreamed that I would get to where I am now, what I'm doing, but because it all wouldn't have made sense if I tried to make sense of it. But there's different parts and pieces of all of our life experiences that point to it. It's like there's a thread that runs through it all and brings us forward. So was there a time when the why, that I need to do this, other than the dream that pointed to you and said, yep, you're going to be doing this? Is there an instance, a string of experiences that maybe you can point to?
Oh, yes. All right, let me just give a couple.
Okay.
One is, this kind of, everybody take a breath. One is the murder of my father. My father was murdered. It was race related when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
And as we know, in the context of the time we're in, of it being lifted up, of dark-skinned people being more targeted than perhaps other people, and that we just need to change the system for everyone, so everyone is protected and safe. So at 13, this happened. He happened to be in a place where early that day, in the mid-60s, a Black man and a white man had a fight. The white man returned, saw the profile of my dad, thinking he was Black instead of dark-skinned, Native American, Mexican American, and fired several bullets and killed him. Now, you can imagine as a 13-year-old, and I had 5 brothers and sisters and a mom with a 7th grade education, who worked all the time putting us through private school. I was mortified. I was hurt. I was, and yet what this is why dreams are so important. I had a lot of healing to do and forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And that dream also was pulling me. I knew there was something more I had to do. I didn't know it was diversity, equity, inclusion. I didn't know I'd be going around the world in AT&T and Hewlett Packard and all these different organizations all over the world. But it drew me. And in the workplace, this is where it's really important not to separate our lives, our personal life and professional. It is all intimately interconnected, as we're learning in life from science and from our own experiences. And so what happened is, in the workplace, as early as in my 20s, I began consulting to Fortune 100 corporations and listening to circles of white people share their dreams, share what they were taught, And some of them said they were taught that they were better than people who looked like me and others. Not all of them, but some said they were taught that by the absence of us. However, they also were sharing in these corporations over and over again that they love their parents, as they should. And they were doing something different. And they were trying to change policies and practices and systems and structures and move forward. Is it fast enough? No, Mary, it's not. And thank you. And that continues to pull me into then realizing that I needed to forgive the man who murdered my father.
Ooh, that's big.
Because what I was beginning to do as a teenager was put up this wall so I would not get hurt. And there are a lot of adults that still have that wall up.
Oh, yeah.
Inside of businesses and at the very high levels. And it keeps out the bad stuff, perhaps, but it also keeps out the good stuff. And so what I learned is that, wait a minute, you know, that man had a son who was about my age. And I thought, the 13-year-old thought, he's going to grow up to be just like his father. Oh, that's horrible. But that was the 13-year-old that was hurt and had not done her healing. But the adult Anita realized that summer day in 1967, my brothers and sisters, we lost our father, but that young white boy lost his father too. And he grew up knowing his father was a murderer. And so that was a big switch that said to me, you are meant, as in the dream that you saw people's hands on each other's hearts, in this corporate world with your now PhD and all of that, you have access to help people understand they are human beings and not just human doings, and that we need development inside and outside, collaboration. What we call well-being is being in right relationship with all our relatives.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me. There are others, but I think that's
a good one, and that's huge to flip-flop the experience so that you can put the shoes on from the other, the other person that is being affected, and travel in those shoes for a little bit and see what that feels like. But that's amazing. And for a 13-year-old, that's
Well, it took some time, so it's not magical. And that's the thing about forgiveness, right? Sometimes it can happen like that, and other times it could take years and even decades. Luckily, mine did not take that long. Thank goodness, because there's too much to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Healthy connection.
I want to go back because I'm fascinated by this. The theory around dreams that is so important in, well, primarily, I think, in the Native American societies and communities, but I do know there are other sectors that attach themselves to it. I myself have had a couple of experiences with dreams that I knew was giving me something to do. There was a task for me to do. And in one case, it was just riveting and goosebumps all over me, and involved another person I didn't even know very well. But 3 times that morning, I was reminded with her name to go and talk to her. And I did. And it was just a mess unfolding in her life. And why I was given that dream to go do something, I think it's because God knew I would actually go and do something. I would follow through. So, because I thought, why couldn't you give somebody who knew her better? I feel weird, telling her she's drowning. And, when I got her on the phone, she said, if I had to put a word to it, that's exactly what's happening to me. And I said, well, you weren't dead yet in the dream. So, but you were being pulled up. So
here you are. Great.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what from the indigenous population that you represent and the belief that you hold with the dreams, where are the dreams coming from?
Nice.
Where's the genesis?
Yeah. So as indigenous people, and again, they're 6% of the world's population are indigenous. So there's many different traditions, and I've studied many of them. But from my own learning, and for many of them, is that we were taught that to be a human being is to be a whole human being, is to be in alignment with your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Did you hear me say spirit? It's immediately part of it. And that we are energy in this one hoop of life. No one's higher, no one's lower. And in this hoop of life, we have access to everything. So not only to other human beings, but also to nature, and that we are nature. We're water, or all the elements that now you hear science finally saying, yes, we're intimately interconnected. And that's the training that it came from there. And so when I was growing up, my mom, my grandma. I mean, we always got up, and as I was helping fix breakfast or pack lunches for us all to go off to school, I would share my dreams with my mom, and or in the weekends with my grandmother. And they would fan those dreams. Wonder what that means. Or they would have, my grandmother would have particular medicine. And one of these, this is a wonderful story, I think this fits for everyone in business and outside of business in the world. At age 4, my grandmother got me, my little sister was a year younger, and my older sister, a couple years older, and we spent the weekend. She told us we were going to get up on Saturday morning, and every hour we were going to go stand by her garden. It's in August, there's sunflowers there. And we were going to just be quiet for 5 minutes every hour and turn like the sunflowers. So you can imagine. So we go out there early, the sun rises, which I still, after 20 some years, to get up with the sunrise. And we're standing there and being quiet because we did what my grandma said. And every hour we go off to and come back, and all day long we were turning, because what do sunflowers do? They look to the sun. Yeah. And then it was night. We had dinner. She took us back out. We were kind of like with a flashlight, and it's pitch dark. There's no moon out. We're by her garden again, and she turns on the flashlight, pointed down, and she turns her head, and we look, and the sunflowers are facing each other. Now, this is the kind of indigenous teaching that I had throughout my life, and still continue to have from elders and people in different parts of the world. And that's the understanding that there's some original knowledge that helps us deal with what is happening. So one, we need the sunlight. We are part of nature. So why would you damage something that we need? Also, we are in community. And so even in the darkest dark, which we've been through some darkest dark, and there may be still more, what happens is you turn to each other, because we're energy and light. And if you look at biologists, what they talk about, or quantum physicists, we're beginning to see them saying things and starting to study us, because how could you know these things? How could you create a calendar? How could you build these things? And now how could you know the nature, the connection between human beings and nature being intimately interconnected? And what does that mean for a world, whether it's in your family or in business or in government? What does that mean for us to be in right relationship with each other? What kind of future will that make for us and for our children and children's children? And I think that's the part that I get excited about, waking up every day.
That's a great story. Great stories.
So look at that. And that, again, that experience keeps unfolding deeper and deeper levels. And I've told this story in C-suite and others. And there's sometimes one person comes up, I don't think you should have told that dream. And others are that experience, or talk about your dream of the hearts. And then always are these leaders who are saying, oh my gosh, I've been forgetting my dreams. What am I doing? And now they're getting pushed, because all these polls are saying, we expect you to resolve the big challenges in the world. That's a lot for people to carry. And we not only expect you to do that, we expect you to do it in a way that's going to lift up everything. And so that requires then some hefty leadership development, healing, forgiveness, unity, collaboration, on and on, the things that are needed to have well-being for all.
I'm going to add to that a little bit, just because I think the word authentic comes to mind, and especially in a lot of the environments that you're mentioning, whether it be business or politics or wherever it is to be able to do the things to accomplish what you're talking about. You really have to be authentic about it. And so to cover up anything at this point, why? I mean, it's going to get found out, one way or the other. It's going to come out at some point. So how you feel about it, dealing with it, like you say, healing from it, if it's something that you need to heal from, and moving forward, in all the right ways that you can. So
exactly,
bringing that as being, it's almost like the tunnel you're going through is that diversity and inclusion tunnel. And yet on the other side is actually just being a good human being. It's just a decent
It's being a life-giving force rather than a destructive one.
Yeah.
And so when going back to the dreaming, I'll give you a good example of this. back in 2005, 6. This is written about, so because I usually keep very confidential with my clients, but this was written about. I was hired and worked with Hewlett Packard. I've worked with off and on since 1990. But then they were looking at the inkjet business was going flat. And so they needed to ignite the leadership at all levels. Well, how do you do that? Dreaming, sharing the best of who you are, dreaming what is possible, and then really putting all that into action. And so we led a process all over the world using positive psychology, the ability to be pulled. If you're just stay stuck in the problems, it's not to deny the problems. We've got to be present to those. But if you stay stuck in them without something to help pull you, then you just spiral downward. What we need is all of us, leaders of homes or business, whatever the leader you are for your own life, to be able to be present to it all, but to have a positive imbalance, which requires us to be able to dream and vision, to see beyond just the facts here, to be able to pull. So they went in a flat market from a 25 billion to a 29 billion operation a little over a year. And people said, how did you do that? We ignited the wisdom, the spirit in the people all over the world. And to talk about what I just want to excite, I want to excite whether you're an entrepreneur, a big business, or somebody who leads a leader in your family. That leader, when we engaged several thousand of the 17,000 employees they had, his immediate response after what he started seeing was happening and people's family lives were getting better too and things. He was like, I want this for all my people. Can you imagine if leaders were saying, I want well-being. I want people to know that it's not only these problems, but to be a leader that inspires, that actually has a processes and the ability to hold the whole so that people can rise up using their wisdom, their skills, all their abilities to be able to create a world that we can all thrive in. And whatever the sector is, that would be amazing. You can see I'm a little excited about that.
I do. And because there's enthusiasm, that means there's energy pulling it forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad to be a part of that, by the way. So this is awesome. Let's talk about a little bit about your book and the one that's out now and the one that's coming up. You said that before we came on record is that you've had 7 books in the last 5 years, but the one that's out on the market now carries just your name. And you're the sole author of the one coming up, I'm assuming, and that also has a similar title. So let's talk about the 2 books. Talk about the one that's on the market now, if you will.
Yes. I'm very happy that Simon & Schuster actually requested that I write this book. It's a great story. But anyway, it's called The 4 Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. And it's based on an eagle hoop prophecy. Prophecy doesn't tell the future, but just says what's likely to happen or not happen if we don't obey the original knowledge. Part of it is care for people, care for the earth, right? Yeah. So these 4 gifts in ceremony, 27 elders from all over the world, Africa, Europe, Asia, all through the Americas, came together and they did their ceremony, sang their songs, prayed, meditated, and they built an eagle hoop with 100 eagle feathers and put 4 gifts in there. And the 4 gifts are, so I invite everyone to listen.
I'll write this down.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is what happens all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 4 gifts are, the first gift is the power to forgive the unforgivable.
Yeah.
The power to forgive the unforgivable. Put that in the ceremonial part of your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And take a breath. And then the second gift, to help all human beings bring harmony and balance back, is the gift of the power of healing. The gift of the power of healing. Put that in the ceremonial part of your heart. And take a deep breath. And people are starting to become aware of like, oh, I've healed a lot of things. And, oh, I think there's some other things. It's a wonderful gift. The third gift they put in there for all human beings to be in right relationship with themselves, each other, and the earth, is the gift of the power of unity. Oh boy, can we use this gift?
Oh yeah.
Where have you been in unity in your own body and being, and in the communities, family, and reaching out all over the world? Where is that? And what is the state of that? The gift of the power of unity. And take a breath. And then the last gift that was given for all of us is the gift of the power of hope, hope in action. Put that in the ceremonial part of your heart. You can see me just smiling because it's what we've been talking about. Yeah. That hope some people are feeling pretty hopeless with what's going on. And hope is an energy source. It's something. And part of how you ignite hope is by allowing yourself to have the vision, the dreams, the individual and collective dreams, which we need to create now so that we know that we can move towards the end of war, peace, development, a kind of business world that to benefit all the stakeholders, not just the top 1% or the few shareholders.
Mhm.
All of these things are visions that are pulling us. And these 4 gifts, the promises, if you use these gifts, you will remember how to be a whole human being in right relationship, an effective relationship with yourself, other 2-legged human beings, and all of our relatives.
Beautiful. I love it. And the way that you present it with a little bit of context around each one is really nice. I like that. So that's the book that's out now. And actually you said it was published in 2017, I believe. And
Yes.
so you're writing another one. And when is that due out? And what's the title of that one?
That will take a couple of years.
Okay.
And working in EDI is a big call on that right now. So that book, though, is called The 4 Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Women, because it is also a time where women, and by women, also just the feminine kind of characteristics are so needed now, where it's not about domination and competition and all that. It's about collaboration. It's about nurturing. It's about caring. It's all of this that needs to occur. And it's not to say men can't do that, but there's a special role and that we're witnessing young girls everywhere, not just waiting till they're older and elders. It's happening really early, leading movements all over the world. So I'm excited about that book, and it will have Indigenous wisdom from all over the world, as well as tapping into women leaders and how are they using these gifts? What are the wisdom that they have to share? It's time. I actually coined this in when I was working at Singularity with Google. And I could see a few people weren't sure, what is she doing here talking about this soft stuff when we just had these great scientists all over the world teaching us about all this stuff. And I could see that, and all of a sudden came out, you can't Google wisdom. And they all looked horrified and then laughed, Lori. They just laughed. And then they paid attention. And then afterwards, going through the processes of looking at your internal world and using these gifts and talking about the group, they came back saying, oh my gosh, we've already been together a month. And we haven't gotten this close an understanding about what it is that we can bring to each other. We just spent a couple hours with you and look what can come through. And I said, well, the unseen spirit, that intuitive part of you, that knowing, because those 4 gifts, I asked you to put them in the ceremonial part of your heart, and you already know where that is, but you also are realizing, I know these gifts, but the key is to use them.
That's the key right there. That is so true. And, honestly, the most important thing that you can bring to any, work environment or any kind of environment may not be the skill that you got your degree on. It may be something totally different. And 9 times out of 10, it usually is, Let's talk about what's coming other than the second book, which is going to take a couple of years. I know that you mentioned a fascinating trip to the Amazon when we were talking before, and I want to find out what else. What else is happening this year, if you can share a little bit.
Yes. So in August 17th to 28th, I'll be leading a journey into the sacred headwaters of Amazon. I take families, business leaders and their families or their team members, and we really, really connect to who you are, what you are. And with all the issues around regeneration and sustainability, it's a really good way to connect. The other things I'm doing, I'm very, very honored and blessed to continue to keep doing the work. I feel like after 40 years of doing this work, I have some sense of working with leaders at all levels. So I have some very big clients who are really looking to address, in the health arena, who are looking to, what is ours to shift now that becomes so transparent in every sector, all the things that are inequitable, that aren't working well. And so what is the role and how do we move forward with similarities and differences, really honoring inclusion, diversity, so people feel they belong and that we can answer and solve the issues so that, again, that everyone has care. So I'm very excited about the ability to work with a couple of very, very large organizations around that. And of course, I still continue to work with global nonprofits, and tech has been in my life forever in my coaching.
Forever, huh?
So just like I said, diversity, inclusion, I have a diverse background of people and things that I do. I think most important for me, though, is to, I guess part of the thing, and everywhere I go, I tap into working on the inner and the outer, and I use indigenous processes as well as science. I'm trained in a lot, certified in all different kinds of methodologies, including positive psychology and all that stuff. But what I find is I keep coming back to the indigenous, because the reality, all of us, even if you didn't keep the original knowledge from your indigenous people, all of us are of the earth. We all are intimately connected. We all both have joy and we suffer when war is happening, or destruction of rainforests, or whatever else is happening, a destruction of people, that this hoop of life, we need all the directions and we need all the other relatives together. So I feel like I'm, what is that? You wake up every day, and I wake up every day with the sunrise, and I'm just so glad that when the light stays out longer, because I stay up longer too. And there's just so much happening, and I take all the time I can, also be stillness. That's important for me too.
You are just a bundle of joy. I just want to tell you that it just radiates from you, and we can feel it, and we can, maybe gravitate toward it and the learnings that you're offering for us. So thank you so much. My last question is, who do you need to meet to help you move forward? You're impactful, so we want to help you move that impact out. So what types of people might you be interested in meeting?
Well, every morning,
Mhm.
when I'm receiving the seeds of light from the sun, and sometimes the moon's out, so I'm getting it from both,
Yeah.
is I ask just to be of greatest service wherever that is. And that's where I would send these two very large, I'm sure, very large healthcare industry people who also know of my work in tech and other ways. So what I to help is to anyone, whether it's an individual or part of a whole organization, to really, what will help me is if you will know that your self-care, your well-being is connected to all others' well-being. And if you're not sure how that looks, then please pick up my book. Because even though I say it's my book, it's got over 50 elders' wisdom in there and some great stories that are applicable to you. You'll see yourself in there, and learn that to integrate these messages. So what I need is anyone who has the ability to send out the message that Indigenous wisdom is necessary at this time, and that you have that. That's not, oh, that's those few people that we don't talk about or think about. But we need to tap into and amplify that wisdom so that we can create truly a hoop of life where every single one of us knows we belong. And we don't have a lot of time. I'm not a doom and gloom. I'm definitely a positive and balanced person, but we need to move forward on it. And so if anyone has the ability to spread the word, just like you're doing, I'm so grateful to be here talking to you. That means more people hear about the 4 sacred gifts. And then go to foursacredgifts.com and they can find out how to get the book, which you can get on Amazon anywhere, and learn more about it. They can take a course on it at their own time and pace.
Yeah.
But that's, to me, I'm a keeper, I'm a carrier of that Indigenous wisdom. And I do weave it into everything I do in business science and other arenas to help make a thriving world for all of us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. This has just been a delight and a learning for me, so I appreciate that. And like you say, a lot of it's things that we maybe have heard differently, but it's a whole different thing when you put them into practice. So it's very important that we not only learn them, know them, we got to use them. So thank you very much. We are going to hang on with us, and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else, but we're going to make sure that everybody has the links to where to get your book and the other books, wherever they may be, and Amazon or wherever they may be, and have links to your site and wherever they may be able to get other resources and learn more about you and to connect with you. So we'll drop those in. So I'll tell everybody who may be watching this, if you're seeing this on YouTube, go to www.frontrunnersinnovate.com, where you'll see this interview and grab all the resources that she sends us, all the links that she sends us, and you'll definitely want to do that. We'll have the podcast version of this conversation for you as well. So if you're one of those that like to walk and listen or drive and listen, you'll be able to do that. So thank you once again, Dr. Anita, and we will hopefully be checking in on you again when you get ready to maybe publish the second book, see where you're at, what's going on there, and we'll give much thanks to Ms. Brooke for connecting us, because, you know, we at Frontrunners Development, we're all about connection. So we'll definitely say, you know, thanks to her. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Anita, and until next time, happy front running.